Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we're going to go over all of the super and secret rares for the first set of the Dragon Ball Super card game Fusion World, which comes out in the next couple weeks. We have the entire set actually here on my website as well, cataloged by color and then also the leaders at the top there. I also kind of double dipped where the super rares are both in the colors and also inside the this bottom one because I just wanted an easier one to go over and for it to be easier access for you guys as well. So again, it's on my website, Eggman Events right now. You guys can check out all the cards for this first set as well. But honestly, I'm just kind of excited to go over these cards in general. We also do have a beta for the demo this Tuesday. It is Tuesday, let me make sure, Tuesday, January 23rd, and we will be live streaming it here on my YouTube as well as on my Twitch, and that should be a lot of fun. They haven't specified if there's any deck building or what cards are available, but it is going to be, fun to speculate and just kind of go over the cards as well. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to go start off with our red super rares and go through the rest there. First one is the Son Goku. This is a 3-drop, 25k, and it has I think most of these don't have any combo. If so, there's just very little. I don't think there's barely any. There's one 10k Vegeta. Otherwise, it's usually like 0 combo for most of these, which kind of makes sense. There has to be some kind of like balancing for them being like a little bit better on their effects, but also a little bit kind of better for their power as well. But this Goku on play, add up to 1 card from your life to your hand, then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with 20k power or less and KO it. So honestly, this seems pretty nice. Self-Awakening in the Masters version of this card game is pretty important, and if you play this on curve, I think this pretty much gets rid of any card your opponent just played. And additionally, looking at this game too, there seems to be a lot of like early removal compared to kind of what I'm used to in Masters, and definitely compared to like One Piece. There is the difference, like things can attack the turn they're played, but being able to get this kind of hard removal for this guy is great. And then there's already so many cards that help us adjust the power. For example, there's like the Vada, or the Whis and stuff. Being able to use cards to give something minus power is kind of like a thing for choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards that gets minus 5k power for the turn. So being able to use this to make it, 25k pretty easily for that, I think is important. So it's pretty good. It's Stadium Universe 7, which is obviously the main archetype for red in this set, and looks pretty cool. Next up, we have Hit, which is a 2-drop with 2 specified energy, 20k. When attacking, add up to 1 card from your life to your hand, then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards that gets minus 5k power for the turn. So again, the 5k is really good for getting rid of some kind of obnoxious 1-drops and blockers, but then also being able to potentially self-awaken. Also for this card game too, it says add up to 1 card, so you can choose 0 for that skill. At least you can in Masters, and I'm 99% sure it's going to be in this one too. So if you're like already at 4 life and you don't need that card draw, you can just easily not use that effect or not take the life and still be able to use the effect, which is kind of nice. So generally just good removal. I don't think there's going to be anything, and most of these there's only a few cards that are kind of fantastic, I feel, for this, but this is just good for what it is. It's a 2-drop, it gets good value, and not too shabby there. So there is the Hit card. And then lastly, we have for red Beerus, which is a 5-drop, 35k, no combo for him, and it has critical, which is a pretty great skill late game to prevent your opponent from getting that card advantage, especially since again it's 35k crit, so they're going to have to spend a good amount of combos from hand, and if they don't, they lose a card from their life, so essentially making them discard a lot of cards. But on play, discard 1 card from your hand, choose all of your opponent's battle cards with 25k power or less, and KO them. So honestly, I don't know how good this is going to be. There are some removal cards in this game, and it's going to be really interesting to see what's kind of the sweet spot for it. This seems like a little bit too expensive for only 25k or more, or 25k or less. So I think most of the 4-drops are like 30k power, but this could hit like pretty much all 3s and 2-drops essentially, and a good amount of 4s. But you can use effects to get things into that range there. I also, let me make sure on this one lets you give something. Something minus 10k. So this does work with the leader very well, being able to get rid of essentially something with 35k and then also something, everything else with 25k power or less, without having to spend any additional energy. So actually in that leader, I could see that being a very good card. It is a Universe 7, so you get the additional effect in the Goku leader as well. But it seems, discarding a card is not as, expensive in this card game too, compared to One Piece, which we normally play. So I think that's pretty good. And obviously, like Digimon, discarding a card is usually pretty free, since you get a lot of cycle in that game, a lot of card advantage. So Otherwise, I think this is a good card. It's pretty strong. Can get rid of some obnoxious blockers that your opponent's probably trying to use to prevent you from doing that. And then you have a 35k crit. The more I talk about it, I think this is actually probably pretty good. So the red ones, I think this Goku is probably like the universal, like just good one. Again, this can also work with the Beerus leader. So, you get rid of something 30k power less for free on play. And I think that's strong. And then hit gets things into range. So I wouldn't be surprised you just put all three of these in the same deck. They kind of work together too. So that is the build there, or the red super rares there. Next up we have the blue one. So we've got this Goku Black, which is I think my favorite. I don't know. The blue ones read pretty busted actually in comparison, but it says on play up to one card with a cost of 4 or less from your drop area to your hand, and then when attacking, if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, play up to one battle card with a cost of 4 or less in your hand. So a good one would be this Trunks feature that we're going to talk about next, but there's a good amount of just 3s and 4s you can be playing off of it. We have cards again like this Trunks feature. We also have this additional Trunks feature, 25k crit, and also choose up to one of your opponents up to one battle card with cost of 3 or less, and return it to the owner's hand. So being able to get a 25k crit on top of it, which again, if you comboed with this earlier, you can get back from your drop too. Any other specific 4s? We have this Vegeta, which gets rid of 1 or less, so not as good, but this does let you attack twice, which is cool. This is just a 30k crit, which is nice. Just looking at specific like 4 costs, so not a lot of variety right now, just because it is the early game. But there are some other cards like in the starter decks that we're not even looking at. But even like a 30k ain't too bad for free. So 40k and a 30k that you drew for free is from your from your drop seems pretty good. So it just depends on how often you get to 6 energy and you tap out for it. So if that's too expensive, this card might be a little bit hard to reach, but otherwise looks like a really strong card. All right, next up we have Trunks Future. So it's a 3-drop 20k. On play, add up to 1 card from your life to your hand, then choose up to 1 battle card with a cost of 5 or less and return it to the owner's hand. So real quick too, kind of like the blue Trunks leader. One thing I meant to say, that this is back for the Goku Black. This Goku Black does have a really great effect. So activate main once per turn, place 1 Zamasu from your battle area to the bottom of your deck. During this turn, the next time you use and play a Goku Black from your hand, you get to reduce its cost by 2. So for example, if you have 5 energy, you can play as a Masu for 1 and then reduce it by 2, so you can it's a turn 5 play, and you keep your hand size smaller for the effect. So there are a couple Zamasus already that are 1-drops. We have, I think all of them are actually. Yeah, all of them are 1-drops, which is great. So you can just play them for 1 and then get the ramp. So it's better in that deck. That's kind of what I'm saying. But for the Trunks deck, what we kind of like to do is that we have this skill that chooses up to one battle card with the cost of 3 or less and returns owner's hand, which is almost always going to be your opponent's cards, but there are a good amount of times you want to return your own cards. We haven't seen a lot of this, or we haven't talked about this, but there's also this Trunks feature, which only costs 2, and it's a 30k, so it's quite big. But at the end of the turn, you get to place it at the bottom of your deck. So using your own leader skill to put it back into your hand so you don't lose the value is great. And it's probably like the best card generically for that. But being able to get rid of, like, make blockers not even like a thing against you because of this on play and everything else, I think this Trunks is pretty universally pretty good. There's usually not a lot of protection you can do from them just choosing a battle card with 5 or less to put it back into hand. So you get a lot of tempo for you, and everything except for green. Green gets some larger bodies out, and obviously this is technically a 5-drop in its own deck, but a 6-drop everywhere else, which means you can't bounce it back with Goku Black or with Trunks. But otherwise, I think this seems like pretty good removal. And if you need to remove something else, you can play it, use your leader effect, bounce it back to your hand, and then play it again. You can get rid of their board for technically only like 1 card. It takes 6 energy to do so, but you get some good value there. And then next up is and this card is a little bonkers. Like, this is a bit of a wild card to be putting out in the first set, but it has on play you add up to 2 cards from your life to your hand, so you can pretty much use this to awaken whenever you want. And then also auto once per turn, if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, when an opponent's battle card is returned to their hand by one of your skills, get to draw 1 card. And it's once per turn. It's either player's turn. I don't think there's a lot of cards that you can play on your opponent's turn that bounce back into hand. If there are, they'd have to probably be more of the event cards or the extra cards. 1 battle card costs a 2 or less. Yeah, so this Final Hope /can, it's only 2 or less, but you can use it that way. And let me make sure real quick. Yeah. I think you can do that. Yeah. when an opponent's battle card is returned by the other hand by one of your skills. So you could technically do that. Your opponent can kind of play around it, but you get like an additional draw as well as using that. So, but this seems like a great card. I think it's going to be a little bit tricky to have this stay around on the board long enough for you to get additional draws, but being able to say, you know what, adding up to 2, like being able to awaken as soon as you want, I think is a very strong effect. So, and then you can, awaken, and then you can use the leader effect to bounce pretty much any card that they have out back to their hand, which means you get your draw from Mai pretty easy. So this card seems pretty good, and I think it's going to be very good in Trunks, or just any blue deck to guarantee that you get to awaken as soon as possible. All right, going into the green ones, we have our first is Aandroidd 17 and Aandroidd 18. It's a 6-drop, 40k double strike. On play, choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards, the cost of 3 or less, and KO them. It's going to be interesting to see how impactful this is. If we're really in a game where we just keep playing stuff on curve and there's not a lot of reason to keep, energy open on your opponent's turn, there's a couple times to put, leave 1 or maybe 2 up, but generally you just always use all your energy every turn. It's going to be a little bit trickier for this, but green is also the ramp color in this game, and we don't really have, I think, as much ramp for these decks as well. Yeah, you get rewarded for being at 6 or more energy, and the Gohan afterwards, you just get effect. Like the activate battle from this Gohan actually is really, really cool. But I think this is fine. It's a double strike 40k, so it's kind of difficult to get around. You just have to make sure, and if they don't have any 4 or higher blockers, this can get rid of any blockers that are in your way, which is cool too. It just puts a lot of pressure down. So I think the card is fine. We'll just see if it's a little bit too expensive or slow, but it does put a lot of pressure down. Next up, we have the Aandroidd 18. So this is Aandroidd 18 just by itself. On play, draw 1, then discard 1. So that's cool. And then just even if it's just like not a hard draw one, just the cycling is nice. And then also when attacking, if you have 6 or more energy, you get to draw an additional card. So obviously that's not once per turn. I don't think there's inherently a way to restand it on your own turn in green right now, but being able to just get that additional card draw. And again, like this is a deck that wants to get to 6 energy as soon as possible because you get a lot of additional effects, which are kind of nice. So including having a 30k leader and then this 20k, I think is good value for it. So nothing too exciting, but just a really good value card. And then lastly, we have Vegeta. So this is a 4-drop 20k, so it's a little bit understated based on how much it costs, but it does have this on play, add up to 1 card with cost of 3 or more from your drop to your energy and rest mode. So being able to ramp with this is great. And then also activate main once per turn, discard 1 card from your hand, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards with a cost of 2 or less, and KO it. So it's a little expensive to use the effect, but being able to, if it survives into the next turn, use it again. So being able to get rid of blockers or anything else that might be in your way is good. 2 or less is a little bit tiny for, I think, the cost maybe, but other than that, more ramp cards are good. I think being able to use the effects, like being able to establish a body as well as potentially getting rid of your opponent's cards. And I think the biggest thing for this too is that it has a way to discard cards inherently on it. So, oh no, sorry, I'm thinking the order wrong. I'm thinking like you could activate main, discard a card, and then use the effect, but that's the wrong order. Ignore that part. But it's really easy to get cards into your drop area in Dragon Ball because you can combo stuff on your offensive as well. So you can just attack with your leader, put the card you need into your, combo with it so it goes into your drop, and then play the Vegeta and put it into your energy. So not that big of a deal. So I think the card is fine. It just depends on, we'll figure out what's the best ramp card in the game, and then we run for that. And then if we need more, we put the Vegeta in if it's not that card already. So that is what green is looking like. And the next up we have yellow. And so we have the Ginyu. So if you have 3 or more battle cards with Frieza Army and their special traits, switch up to 2 of your energy to active mode, then you can't play Ginyu for the rest of the turn. So it just means like this card is free if you're able to go wide. And that's kind of like the, there's the Ginyu effects, and it's going to be interesting to see if this deck is good or bad. In Masters, Ginyu was kind of good for a little bit, and then just kind of dropped off and just became more of just like the meme deck. There are some really good effects for it too. It just depends, like, generally the Ginyu Force cards are a little bit understated for what they do, but with the idea that if you get enough of them out, you're able to get some really good effects. And especially with the leader for yellow for it lets you pay 3 and discard 2 cards from your hand to choose all your battle cards with Ginyu Force and their special traits and switch to them active mode. So it's a little bit expensive for what it is. Additionally, this Ginyu doesn't have to be, it's just Frieza Army, not Ginyu. So if you're running more of a Frieza Army deck with the Frieza deck from I guess the leader from the first or from the starter deck, it's better. But I think it looks fine. Luckily it doesn't have like an on play once per turn, but being able to negate any Ginyus from being played. So Include itself kind of protects it from, I feel like, getting abused too much for what it is. But this card seems okay. It might be an extension if you're playing Frieza Army. It's a little bit specific for what it is, but it's not too bad. All right, next up we have the Cooler, which this card is pretty insane. I think it gets a lot of value. So it's a 4-drop 30k. It has blocker, which is important because the yellow cards are just, one of their identities is restanding your cards either on your turn or your opponent's turn, which with the Cooler leader that we get, you are able to do that. The activate main or battle. Once returned, discard one card from your hand, choose up to one of your battle cards with cost of 4 or less, and freeze a clan and special traits or one of your energy and switch to active mode. So being able to use that effect to make your attack either twice with this card or have it available as a blocker, I think is good. So either or, it's in a good spot. And then when attacking and when blocking, and this is not once per turn either, so if you end up attacking with it twice per turn, you can use it. Or I guess technically blocking twice per turn, because you could leave it up and then block, and then during the block, discard a card and restand it. But choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and switch it to rest mode. Then if that card has the cost of 2 or less, you get to KO it. So being able to just rest literally anything when attacking is such a good skill, because you can choose a blocker and it gets rested before they can block with it, which is cool. This seems like a really oppressive card, honestly, and yellow for sure. Even though like none of its cards are like super duper flashy, all of them just read a little bit better than the other colors based on my own testing. So we'll see if that ends up being true. But this Cooler looks like it's going to be a pretty strong card in my opinion. And then lastly, we have Frieza. So this is kind of, it works for, again, the Cooler leader, but also works for the leader of the one that we get for the star deck. But it's a 4-drop 40k, so it's very overstated, but the kind of balance for it is that it has this permanent. This card can't be switched to active mode during your charge phase. So mildly cheesy, but I think this is going to be honestly a pretty big beat stick in this game. Since it's a free effect from your leader for this effect here. I'll even bring it up right now for the Frieza leader, but it's going to be very, very easy for you to just say choose up to 2 of your battle cards and switch them to active mode. And they're just any battle cards for the record too. They're not any like Frieza Army, Frieza Clan, Cooler, whatever. No, it's just any 2 battle cards. So this also means that this guy gets to take advantage of this Cooler very easily by, it's a 30k, you attack with it, and then you can restand it, and you can block with it on your opponent's next turn and get the when blocking effect, which is kind of rude in its first place. So honestly, I think this Cooler is probably one of the best super rares, with the idea that the Cooler and Frieza leaders work very, very well with it. So obviously this works well with it, and it can work with the Cooler. You can have it attack twice 40k. You attack with it, use your leader effect, and then attack with it again. So that's a lot of power. And if either of those decks are good, I think this is a good card. Otherwise, it's a little bit cheesy. It's a little bit dependent on using one of those leaders, but it's a very good card for both those leaders. And then for our secret rares, and I don't know specifically, I've asked around, no one has the right answer or the confirmed answer. If you guys know in the comments, let me know. I don't know if secret rares are 1 per deck like they are in Masters, or you can run 4 copies of any of them like you can in pretty much more the other Bandai card games right now. Reading both of these cards that are secret rares, they don't look like they are powerful enough that they are 1 per deck. But if that is the case, let me know. I would be curious if they've confirmed that. I have yet to find it myself. But we have this Son Goku. This is, I feel like, the better of the 2, but it has an on-play, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards. It gets minus 15k power for the turn. So already that's good. And I should have maybe said this earlier if I haven't, but if things go to 0 power in Masters, and I'm 99% sure it's confirmed in this game too, if it goes to 0 power, you get rid of it. So by that effect, you can get rid of a 15k, and if you use this in Beerus, you can get rid of a 25k, which is quite nice. And then also auto, when this card KOs an opponent's battle card in battle, deal 1 damage to your opponent. So you can also do some fancy stuff. So one, if your opponent has 1 life and they have a bunch of blockers thinking that they're safe, this Son Goku will make it so that they are not safe. Or if they have like a 20k card that's attacked last turn and you need to do 1 more damage, you can use this minus 15k power on their 5-drop and then attack into it. And if you're able to KO it in battle, then you're able to deal that 1 more damage. So being able to have either or is really nice. And it seems like a really, really good finisher. We don't like Masters took a while for us to get like a consistent amount of burn damage, and this getting it in set 1 is a little wild. So I think this card is going to be pretty dang good in red. And then Son Gohan Childhood, 7 energy, which again in green is less oppressive to get to since you do have a lot more chances to ramp. But on play, discard 1 card from your hand, choose all of your opponent's battle cards with cost of 5 or less, and KO them. Then this card can't attack for the turn. So this can just kind of do a board wipe. It's a little expensive because it's like your entire turn, 7 energy, and you have to discard a card. But if it's like, it depends on like if yellow's really good with going wide on board, being able to clear it with this card I think is very good. Most cards like outside of green kind of cap out at 5 cost anyways, so it does essentially be a board wipe. The only cards that are exceptions are once again green, and like this Goku Black I think is like the only other card that's really costly from what I've seen. So I think you being able to get like a board wipe as it were, I think is very strong. Yeah, I don't really see any. As far as I remember, everything else, yeah, in this point in time, it's just like a board wipe because it is literally every card. The only card it doesn't hit is itself, some green Broly stuff, like some green stuff, including the starter deck, and then like this Goku Black. I think this is a new card pool. If there's any cards I'm missing, let me know. I guess if they played out a super combo 7-drop, but I'm fairly sure this does clear most boards in this game right now. So in that context, I think that's strong. But it is a potential. I think this could get power crept pretty quickly, if not immediately. So we'll see if that is good enough. Because you are pretty much giving up your turn from playing anything, but you are getting rid of all the cards on their board. It just depends if the meta is more about going wide or going tall. Either or, this will be able to get rid of it, but again, it is 7 energy, which is quite a lot in this game. So that is there. And those are all the super rares and secret rares. Those are my opinions for it. I talked maybe a little bit too long about it, but if you guys want to look at all the cards, they are again here on my website. The entire set is here, as well as some additional cards like the remainder of the star decks. All the star decks are here, and a couple of the promos that they've announced as well. I don't have as much info on these right now because they haven't released it, but as soon as I do, you guys will get more info on it too. But that's going to be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what super rare you guys are looking forward to, and what decks and archetypes and leaders, and that's going to be it for me. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.